He is my Lord, birth after birth, from whom is static primitive. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. Oh, Master, please be merciful to us. Please give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Jai.
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya, Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. Bandha mui savadhana mati. Bandha mui savadhana mati. Yahara prasare bhai e bhavaturiya jai. Yahara prasare bhai e bhavaturiya jai. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoti. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoti. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya. Arna kuri ho mane asha. Arna kuri ho mane asha. Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Jai prasade pure sarva asha. Ye prasade pure sarva asha. चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinyasa jate. Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinyasa jate. Vedigai jahara charito. Vedigai jahara charito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu. Lokinath Lokira Jivahina. Lokinath Lokira Jivahina. Ha ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Pada Chaya. Ha ha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Pada Chaya. Ebejash kusukchi bhuvahina. Ebejash kusukchi bhuvahina. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Harama Janara Bandhu. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Harama Janara Bandhu. Lokinath Lokira Jivahina. Lokinath Lokira Jivahina. Ha ha Prabhu Kuru Doya Deho Mode Padachaya. Ha ha Prabhu Kuru Doya Deho Mode Padachaya. Ebijash kusukchi bhuvahina. Srila Prabhupada Bhattita Pavahina. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadeshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtatar Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtatar Shata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Primsekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Mathura Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Yamuna Mai ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. I'll take it. Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We can chant all together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yutamash loke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Inmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, entitled The Pandavas Retire Timely, and we'll be focusing on text number 5 today. But before that, can we have, maybe we can do a recap of the previous chapter and what we were talking about yesterday. Maybe Aditi, do you want to recap us on what we talked about yesterday in Janaki's class?
Yesterday they were talking about, wasn't it that Yudhisthira was asking Arjuna all of these, he was asking Arjuna all these questions. He saw Arjuna was like really down. And he was trying to figure out what it was, but he was a little bit in denial. And pretty much it was building up to the fact that Krishna had left the planet, and that's why he was so down. But he was just asking a bunch of questions. He was like, are you upset because of this? Are you upset because of this? And at the end of the chapter, he realizes.
All right, so last chapter, Yudhishthira is like interrogating Arjuna and saying, why are you upset? And he's trying to avoid the fact that Krishna has left, and it's very painful for him. And so now we're going to see what happens after that, and as we can see from the name of the chapter, the Pandavas, something happens to them. So we're going to read text 1 through 15. Does someone want to start us off?
Suta Goswami said, Arjuna, the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief-stricken because of his strong feeling of separation from Krishna. Over and above all, Maharaj Yudhisthira's speculative inquiries. Due to grief, Arjuna's mouth and lotus-like heart had dried up. Therefore his body lost all luster. Now remembering the Supreme Lord, he could hardly utter a word in reply.
With great difficulty, he checked the tears of grief that smeared his eyes. He was very distressed because Lord Krishna was out of his sight, and he increasingly felt affection for him.
Remembering Lord Krishna and his well wishes, benefactions, intimate familial relations, and his chariot driving, Arjuna, overwhelmed and breathing very heavily, began to speak.
Arjuna said, O king, the supreme personality of Godhead, Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me.
Okay, so we can get from this little section that Arjuna's experiencing these really depressed symptoms, and it's because he's a pure devotee, as Prabhupada says, and he's experiencing separation from Krishna, which we all are, but we should be as sad as Arjuna is, I guess. All right, next text.
Arjuna said, O king, the supreme personality of Godhead, Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me.
Text 6. I have just lost him whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life.
Only by his merciful strength was I able to vanquish all the lusty princes assembled at the palace of King Drupada for the selection of the bridegroom. With my bow and arrow, I could pierce the fish target and thereby gain the hand of Draupadi.
Okay, so I have some little pictures I got just to kind of visualize what's happening. So we can see that Arjuna, he's one of the Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas, and he's the son of Queen Kunti. And Queen Kunti, she was able to call these demigods to give her children. So Arjuna is the son of Indra, and he's a very powerful warrior. And we can see throughout his life, it's always he's doing something, and Krishna's helping out. Krishna's empowering him next to him. And so this specific story is talking about how he became the husband of Queen Draupadi, Princess Draupadi. And so there was this thing called a Swayamvar. And that's basically where there's a challenge for a bunch of princes, and whoever wins the challenge gets to take the hand of the princess. And so Arjuna's challenge was very difficult. Actually, I think Draupadi had set up that challenge just so that only Arjuna would be able to pass it. Except Karna shows up, and Karna's Arjuna's half-brother. And Karna, he was the first son of Queen Kunti, except Queen Kunti was unmarried, and she was very young, and she was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this kid. Because she was just testing out the mantra. She gets this mantra from this great and powerful sage, Durvasa Muni, and he says, with this mantra, you can call any of the demigods. And so she calls Suryadev, and he says, now that I've appeared, I have to give you a child. And she's like, what? I'm like a teenager. I'm unmarried. I'm a princess. I can't do this. And so she ends up having to send Karna away. She puts him in a little raft, right? And sends him down the river. Yeah. And so years later, Karna, he's the son of the sun god, so he's basically as powerful as Arjuna, except because he was sent away, he lost his royal heritage, and so he wasn't able to compete, even though he wanted to. And so that's kind of how the quarrel between Arjuna and Karna came up. But basically, yeah, Arjuna shoots the target, and he wins Draupadi. Let's go to the next text. Where's the mic? Oh.
Because he was near me, it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful king of heaven, Indradev, along with his demigod associates, and thus enable the fire god to devastate the Khandava forest. And only by his grace was the demon named Maya saved from the blazing Khandava forest. And thus we could build our assembly house of wonderful architectural workmanship, where all the princes assembled during the performance of Rajasuya Yagya and paid you tributes.
Okay, so I found this really cool picture, and it just shows, this is Indra fighting with, the demigods are fighting Arjuna. I'm not sure if anyone has more context on this pastime. I was reading the purport and I couldn't find much about the pastime itself. But we can just see like Arjuna has like this celestial bow and like this like if you try to comprehend like how powerful Arjuna was and how like his chariot gifted by the god of fire, and we can see Krishna here. Krishna as his charioteer. Just imagine God as your charioteer. Arjuna is so powerful, and he's contending against even like the king of the demigods. And so, also, Maya, he was in the forest fire, and he pleaded for shelter from Arjuna, who is being talked about in the translation, and he's the demon who was able to build the great palaces. And so they were like, okay, we'll let you live, but you have to help us out. All right, next text.
Your respectable younger brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jarasandha, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarasandha's Mahabhairava Yagya, and they were thus released. Later they paid tribute to your majesty.
Okay, so there's the story of Jarasandha, and this is one of my favorite demon-killing pastimes because it's just so brutal. But basically, everything that the Pandavas were able to accomplish, it was actually because of Krishna. And so they were very strong, but Jarasandha was equally as strong as Bhima. What happened was the Pandavas, they dressed up as Brahmins and they snuck in. There's like a whole pastime behind it, but they dress up as Brahmanas and they sneak in. And whenever a Brahmana comes to your place, you're like, okay, how can I serve you? I'll give you anything. We can see that as a common theme in the Bhagavatam. And so Jarasandha's like, whoa, these are like some buff Brahmanas, but he's like, what can I give you? What can I give you? And they go, we want a fight. And so they like take their weapons out, and it's like, oh dang, it's going down. But Jarasandha, he was like, I'm not going to fight with Krishna because he fled from me, so I consider him to be inferior to me. I want to fight my equal. And he says, I'm not going to fight Arjuna either because Arjuna is younger than me, so I'll fight with Bhima. And Bhima, like, if you read about him in the Mahabharata, he like kills so many people. There's like rivers of blood, like going like throughout the battlefield of Kurukshetra and stuff. So Bhima is so powerful, but against Jarasandha, they're just fighting for like days and for a really long time. I don't actually know exactly how long they were fighting, but eventually Krishna, he picks up like this little, I think is it grass or is it a stick? It looks like a stick, so I'm gonna assume it's a stick. And he like gives the little signal like tear him. And so Bhima, he gets the hint. So Jarasandha means he was like fused by the witch named Jara. He has a whole long story, but basically Krishna facilitates Bhima to tear him in half. Hari-o. Okay, next text.
It was he only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants who dared open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. At that time, she fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes.
So there's the story of Draupadi. Let me see. And we can see Lord Chaitanya calls Vaishnav Aparad the mad elephant offense, and it's the most dangerous offense, and it can take your devotion and just completely overturn it and uproot it. But also it can get you killed. And it can get like everyone you know killed and your entire family killed. So just because Dushasana had touched the hair of Queen Draupadi, and so there's this thing in Vedic culture that when your hair is loose, it means you're a widow. And so he like touches her hair, and her hair is like out, and Krishna's like, okay, well, all of the wives of all of the Kauravas, their hair is going to be loosened. And you know why? because they're all going to become widows, because everyone's going to die because of this offense. That's basically, I've heard before, this is the primary reason the battle happened, is because they offended Draupadi. And the Pandavas were like, we're not going to stand for that. All right, next text.
During our exile, Durvasa Muni, who eats with his 10,000 disciples, intrigued with our enemies to put us in dangerous trouble. At that time, he, Lord Krishna, simply by accepting the ruminants of food, saved us. By his accepting foods, thus the assembly of Munis, while bathing in the river, felt sumptuously fed, and all of the three worlds were also satisfied.
So this is another pastime. And basically we have this character named Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni is a character. He is... See, we can see in the Bhagavatam, like, if you are associated with Krishna, basically you're going to be... Like we can see Maharaj Ambarish thousands and thousands of years ago, and we're still talking about him today. So, just being around Krishna, you'll get some of the... You'll be famous, kind of. It's not guaranteed, but we can see that the most famous personalities are people who are in Bhagavatam, people who are associated with Krishna somehow. And Durvasa Muni, he's famous, but for like the wrong... He's famous for kind of being very grouchy and grumpy. And so there's this thing where, just like how when brahmanas come to your home, you have to be like, oh, how can I serve you? Can I give you something? If like sages come to your home, it's like, you know, you have to feed them. You have to give them water and a place to sit. So it's like, oh, Durvasa Muni is coming over. Okay, it's not a huge deal. But he has 10,000 disciples, and all of them need to be fed as well. It's like I was just thinking, like a JPS came over and all 60,000 of the disciples, you got to feed all of them. And so Draupadi, she has like this pot. I'm not sure what the story of the pot is, but she can basically make a lot of preparations with the pot. And she's only able to cook before she eats herself. Anyways, she hears that they're coming just as she's like taking the last bite, or like just as she starts to eat, and she's like, oh no, what am I going to do? And so Krishna, he's like, oh, look, there's a little speck on the pot. And so Krishna takes the little speck and he eats it himself. And when he eats it, everyone else, all the sages are just like miraculously full. They're like, oh, I can't eat anymore. Might as well just not go to the house. I guess they only wanted the food or something. I don't know. But yeah. So we can see again, Krishna saves the day. Next text, please.
It was by his influence only that in a fight I was able to astonish the personality of God, Lord Shiva, and his wife, the daughter of Mount Himalaya. Thus he, Lord Shiva, became pleased with me and awarded me his own weapon. Other demigods also delivered their respective weapons to me, and in addition I was able to reach the heavenly planets in this present body and was allowed a half-elevated seat.
I just noticed something interesting. We can see personality of God is all lowercase. And I just thought maybe that's intentional, or maybe it's because he's Shiva and not Vishnu, that it's all lowercase, but yeah. Anyways, this is another pastime I don't have too much context on, but we can see how Arjuna contended with even like the greatest of demigods. And Lord Shiva, he was pleased with him for being such a good fighter that he gives him the Pashupati weapon. And in the Mahabharata, that weapon, it does a lot of like damage. All right. Next text.
When I stayed for some days as a guest in the heavenly planets, all the heavenly demigods, including King Indra Deva, took shelter of my arms, which were marked with a Gandiva bow, to kill the demon named Nivatakavacha. O King, descendant of Ajamida, at the present moment I am bereft of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose influence I was so powerful.
Okay. Next text.
The military strength of the Kauravas was like an ocean in which there dwelt many invincible existences, and as it was insurmountable. But because of his friendship, I, seated on the chariot, was able to cross over it, and only by his grace was I able to regain the cows and also collect by force many helmets of the kings, which were bedecked with jewels that were sources of all brilliance.
So you can see here he's talking about the battle of Kurukshetra, and he killed like a lot of people, and it was all because of Krishna being present there. We hear a lot that like in the first part of the Gita it says that like Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra, it's like this religious site. Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya like, okay, what did they do? Who's going to win? And Sanjaya basically, he's saying like, throughout the Gita, like, because Krishna's on the other side, they're going to win. Like, no matter what happens, because Krishna's on the other side, they're going to win. So this is again to the theme that Krishna is the one who's making Arjuna win. Next text.
It was he only who withdrew the duration of life from everyone and who, in the battlefield, withdrew the speculative power and strength of enthusiasm from the great military phalanx made by the Kauravas, headed by Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Shalya, etc. Their arrangement was expert and more than adequate, but he, Lord Sri Krishna, while going forward, did all this.
Okay, now we can go back to text number 5. Arjuna Vacha Vanchitoham Maharaja Harina Bandhurupina Yena me paritam dejo Deva Visma Panam Mahat Arjuna Vacha Vanchitoham Maharaja Harinam Bandhurupina Yena me paritam tejo Deva Visma Panam Mahat. Please chant. Arjuna Vacha Vanchito Maharaja Haina Bandhurupina Arjuna Vacha Vanchitoham Maharaja Harina Bandhurupina Yena me bhavitam tejo Yena visma panam bharat Arjuna Vacha Vanchitoham Maharajan Rupina Yena me bhavitam tejo. Alright, word for word. We can all say it together. Arjuna Vacha, Arjuna said, Vanchita, left by him, Aham, myself, Maharaja, O King, Harina, the personality of Godhead, Bandhurupina, of an intimate friend, Yena, by whom, may, my, Abhutam, I removed the power Deva, the demigods. Visvapanam, astonishing. Mahat. Translation, purport by Srila Prabhupada. Can you read the translation?
Arjuna said, O king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me.
Purport.
In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, anyone specifically powerful and opulent in wealth, strength, beauty, knowledge, and all that is materially desirable is to be considered but a product of an insignificant portion of the complete whole of my energy. No one, therefore, can be independently powerful in any measure without being endowed by the Lord. When the Lord descends to the earth along with his eternal, ever-liberated associates, he not only displays the divine energy possessed by himself, but also empowers his associate devotees with the required energy to execute his mission of incarnation. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4:5 that the Lord and his eternal associates descend to the earth many times, but the Lord remembers all the different roles of incarnations, whereas the associates, by his supreme will, forget them. Similarly, the Lord takes away with him all his associates when he disappears from the earth. The power and energy which were bestowed upon Arjuna were required for fulfillment of the mission of the Lord. When his mission was fulfilled, the emergency powers were withdrawn from Arjuna, because the astounding powers of Arjuna, which were astonishing even to the denizens of heaven, were no longer required, and they were not meant for going back home, back to Godhead. If endowment of powers and withdrawal of powers by the Lord are possible even for a great devotee like Arjuna, or even the demigods in heaven, then what to speak of the ordinary living beings, who are but figs compared to such great souls? The lesson is, therefore, that no one should be puffed up for his powers borrowed from the Lord. The sane man should rather feel obliged to the Lord for such benefactions, and must utilize such power for the service of the Lord. Such power can be withdrawn at any time by the Lord, so the best use of such power and opulence is to engage them in the service of the Lord.
All right. Arjuna said, O king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me. Okay, so there was once this little boy, and if you've ever been in a situation where it's hard to practice devotional service, you might be able to relate with him a little bit, because his dad was like really mean, and he really did not like Krishna consciousness. He was like, I want to be a devotee. And so atheists, they can be very envious of God and of the devotees. And parents, they often want to create a child in their image. They're like, you're going to be exactly like me, but you're going to be me, but even better. All the opportunities that I didn't take, I'm going to make you take them. And so you're going to be like a super version of me. And so we can imagine the biggest demon in the world, he's saying, you're going to be even worse than me. Or like, you're going to, I want you to be a really bad demon. And little Prahlad, he's like, I want to be a devotee. And so Hiranyakashipu, he starts trying to torture him, basically. He like tries to boil him in oil, throw him off a cliff, throw him in a pit of snakes, poison his food, and throughout all of it, he's protected. He's protected by his faith. He's protected by Krishna. And so then Hiranyakashipu is like, Prahlad, come here. And he sits him on his lap, and he starts questioning him, and he goes, from where do you get your power from? And Prahlad is like, the same place as you, Dad. And he's like, what? And so the point is that everyone is getting their power from one person, and from Krishna. And whether it's like a celestial weaponry where you can fight the demigods, or if it's even just you're able to chant Hare Krishna, you're able to wake up in the morning. Everyone is getting empowered. And so there's a certain, everyone has material desires. And so we can't really ignore them. But I was thinking, a lot of people want mystic powers. And so I have a question for you guys. If I offered you some kind of like superpower, you could be invisible, you could shoot fire out of your hands or something, would you take it? You would take it? Okay. And so, thing is, these things are not very extraordinary in that Krishna can just give them to you. That's not the goal, but we, what's that verse? Pango Langai Taraham Shri Guru, and I'm trying to remember it. Mukam Kurati Vachalam Pango Langai Tegirim Tad. Anyways, but basically, Krishna can make the lame climb mountains, and he can make the dumb recite, or the mute recite eloquent poetry. And he can do anything, and he can also clean your heart if you let him. Actually, yeah, and I had this thought that why am I not getting a taste in chanting? Why am I not getting, like, I see other people around me, they're like, oh, I had such good japa, or they're like, oh, sometimes they even say like more esoteric stuff. I'm like, whoa, like TMI. But when you think about it, like, I had the thought that if I saw Krishna during my japa, what would I do? Like, what would be my next step? And if I genuinely assessed myself, and I was like, if I saw Krishna during my japa, I would walk into every room and say, I'm the best person in this room, and I'm the most advanced in this room, and I'm better than everyone else, and I saw God, and I'm the hot stuff, you know, like, I have the best japa here. And so I was thinking, like, it's actually like Krishna's mercy that he's not like, well, also it's like two things. It's that I'm not doing it properly, but also it's like it's Krishna's mercy that he's not giving me these things, or he's not giving me like these superpowers or this or that. And it's because I'm not ready for them. And we can see a lot, like Srila Prabhupada, he was ready to get empowered. He says, I'm a puppet in your hands. Make me dance, make me dance. And Krishna made him dance. Krishna made him like go all over the world, and he created this international society for Krishna consciousness because he was willing to be empowered by Krishna. And part of being empowered by Krishna is what we see from Arjuna here. Arjuna is saying, I was able to do all of this. I was able to battle with Indra, the king of the demigods. I was able to fight this massive army of the Kauravas. I was able to basically do like anything. And it wasn't because of me. It was because of Krishna. And now that Krishna's gone, I'm nothing. And he was able to be empowered because he recognized his position. And he recognized where his power came from. And so similarly, if we want to do great things, or if we want to be like, you know, if we want to be like Arjuna, or like Srila Prabhupada, and able to do so much, we have to really just take a second and just understand where are my opulences coming from. Because we all have opulences. You guys, like, we have healthy bodies, and we're able to see, we're able to dance, we're able to chant, we're able to do a lot of stuff, and it's really only because of Krishna. I was thinking, does anyone have any thoughts on that point of Krishna like protecting you by not giving you like certain opulences? Because I remember growing up, it's like because when you grow up in like a religious family, or for me, I grew up in a Vaishnava family, I knew Krishna was like God, and I wasn't necessarily mature enough to pray properly. I'd be like, Krishna, please, please give me this, please. And looking back, like a few years later, I'm like, thank you so much for not giving me that. That would have ruined like my material life, my spiritual life. I was just like, wow, like thank you for protecting me by not giving me these opulences or giving me these abilities. So does anyone have any experiences like that of Krishna withholding something that you wanted and is actually for your better? Oh.
There was this devotee who used to be at the temple that I'm at in Kansas City, and I would often tell him, like, yeah, we need like better spots for Sankirtan and like, you know, all these different things to make a book distribution better and easier. And he would make this point that Krishna can give you the whole world in a few days, like what happened in the Battle of Kurukshetra. But if you can't even clean your bathroom, then how are you going to be able to manage the whole world?
I really like that quote. I believe Srila Prabhupada said that once, like, Krishna can give you the whole world, but what would you do with it? And like, yeah, it's another question. Like, I was like, okay, who would accept the superpower? And you were saying, I need to think a bit more. Because you need to know what are you going to do with it. And so when your intentions are open, Krishna's like, okay, he knows what he's going to do if I give him this. So it's safe to give him opulences and power. Janaki?
Hi, Krishna. One, thank you for such a nice class. It's so personal and just full of stories, and you clearly know Mahabharata really well. I was thinking that whenever I was in Mayapur just a few months ago, whenever I got there, I was kind of anxious because whenever I left America, there were a lot of things that were uncertain. Where am I going to go? Like, where's my service going to be when I come back? And what am I going to do? And stuff like that. And so I was really like kind of feeling anxious, like, am I going to be distracted while I'm in the Dham? And like, please just help me focus, Krishna. And I got there, and it was my first time in Mayapur, and it was so, so incredible because I really like felt like I experienced Lord Chaitanya's like super, super like overly generous mercy, because as I got there, it was like as soon as, and it could be like a big desire, like what am I going to do, where am I going to live, to like any tiny, tiny desire. And even the desire of like, please help me focus. It was like literally I was there for like 2 months about, and or 3 months, and every single desire that came through my head, I got. And it was like literally within minutes. And it was like, I noticed it almost immediately, and I thought, this is kind of suspicious, it's kind of weird, but maybe, I don't know. But then it kept happening. And it was like, I realized very quickly that I have many, many desires that I actually don't desire. And many desires too that are very subtle. And the more that I became aware of them, the more that I really like had to be like, Krishna. Like I was watching desires like come through my head, and I was like, Krishna, don't look at that one. Don't mind that one. That one's not real. Don't worry about it. But it was, yeah, kind of scary.
I like that point. I was thinking that it's like you went into like Goloka Vrindavan. It's just desire trees everywhere, and they're like fulfilling all your desires. And so that's why we have to make sure we're pure before we go to Goloka Vrindavan, or else we're going to ask those trees for the wrong things, and then we're going to get some nasty stuff. Aditi?
I was thinking, I mean, you've heard this story before, but when I first came to Dallas like 8 years ago, like on a trip, like when we pulled up to the temple, like Mother Jaisharada was like telling everybody, she was like, listen, she's like, Kalachandji is very powerful, like, she's like, anything you wish for, like good or bad, he will grant it, so don't think about the wrong thing. And I walked into the temple room and I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, don't think about anything bad, don't think about anything bad, he was gonna fulfill it, like, don't like think about your family dying or something. Like, I was freaking out, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was thinking, I was like, oh, it's like, you know, like after the fact, I was like, oh, you know, like I didn't really like think about that much. Like I don't know if it was true. And then now that I'm here in Dallas, like I like look at the deities and like pretty much the similar thing like what happened to Janaki. Like all of the desires that I had, they're all becoming fulfilled, and like it's happening really quickly, like a lot faster than like I was expecting. And it's like a little freaky, and I was like, whoa, I think she had a point. Like, don't think about the wrong thing when you're praying in front of the deities, because it'll actually happen, and then maybe not.
Jai. Thanks for sharing. So I guess another point is we can see Arjuna's case. He had the proper intentions and he had the proper desires, and he said, I want to serve Krishna, and like I'm willing to be like empowered. That's kind of the point of the Gita. Krishna's like do it, but do it for me. And so when Arjuna agrees, he has like this insane power, and they win the war. But then also we can see that when the purpose is served, Krishna will eventually take it away. And so this is Arjuna's case. He's a great devotee, amazing devotee. And we'll read later in this chapter that he's going to take the queens from Dwarka, and I forgot where he was taking them, but he gets ambushed by coward boys, like a bunch of like coward boys, and he used to fight with the demigods, but these coward boys, they overpower him and they take the queens away. And Arjuna is coming to this realization that because Krishna's purpose is served and because he's no longer here, and I don't have like these powers aren't necessarily going to like be part of Krishna's plan anymore. They're now leaving. They're going away. So I was just curious. I was just thinking like this body that Krishna's given us, these things. We can see that devotees like they get empowered, but eventually it's like, okay, it's time for you to come back home, come back to Godhead and stuff. And so Krishna will eventually take away their bodies and take away like everything else. And also with this process of taking away any like lingering attachment, that also is taken away, and he can just safely like take us back home. So we can't get attached to the opulences. All right, so I went a little bit over time, but are there any questions, comments, reflections, realizations, or criticisms, or critiques, or bashings, or public? Just kidding.
I had just one reflection that I wrote down at the beginning. This whole chapter that we've been going over, or last chapter at least, it's been so intense and very vivid and colorful and descriptive. And even when you're reading now, whenever we read Arjuna, he's like he lost all of his luster and he's so sad. As soon as we started reading it, I kind of felt my own heart like, oh, Arjuna, like this is really sad. And I was just thinking of the power of storytelling, and how whenever we hear stories like this that are very vivid and like capture our emotions, then our mind is also very easily captured. And so when we're preaching also, it's important, of course, that we have a foundation, a very strong foundation of philosophy, but it's also very important that we like share our personal experiences and our realizations like that are based in that philosophy, because that's what actually like melts people's heart. Because I mean, we've only read about Arjuna. I've never met Arjuna, and I don't really know Arjuna. But when I hear about him and he's this great warrior, and then suddenly he's weak, it's like, man, this is really powerful. And I was just thinking that if we are able to like share Krishna consciousness in that way, like on Sankirtan or doing books or preaching at programs, then it can also be a very powerful tool.
Jai, thank you. Gokulananda.
So, talking about domestic powers, I remember one time Jananivas Prabhu, he shared this story. So he said there was this yogi, mystical yogi, who practiced mysticism for like almost 30 years, and then he acquired the mystic power, some siddhi, of transforming himself into any form that he desired. So what he would do was he would transform himself into a monkey, and he would go and climb up the tree, and he would watch all the ladies bathing in the water, in the river. So he said, what's the point after going through all this, you know, it's like punarmushiko bhava, right? So then he also narrated, there is a story that is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita of, I think, Rasikananda Prabhu. So his disciples, one time they came up to me rushing, said, Gurudev, we saw there is this mystic yogi in this village. We saw him, take the broomstick, and he sat on the broomstick and he just flew in the sky. So it happened like a couple times. And one day in the morning when Rasikanand Prabhu, he was brushing his teeth with the neem stick. So again the disciples came up to him saying, we just saw him. And this time he was like, oh, come on. And then he took that neem stick, he put in between his legs, and then he just flew in the sky, and he came back. And he said, devotees also have the mystic powers, but we don't want to use because that reduces our dependence on Krishna.
Jai, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Nanda Braj.
I was relating to, talking about desires and, whether they come or not come, and the desires that we want and we don't want. And I was thinking about how amazing it is that it's explained that the pure devotees they're self-satisfied. So they're not even having to worry about these kind of things. They don't even have these desires for this or that. It's like whatever, their faith is so firm that whatever Krishna brings them is what's meant to be. And that's what's, so it's just interesting to see, in my experience, how far I am away, because I do have all these desires all the time. But if I was getting more and more on that pure fat form, then I'd be self-satisfied and just be like, accepting whatever Krishna brings. That was my thought.
All right. It's 8:31. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.
Hare Hare
Amen.